But it's no wonder that Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. There's nobody else. Nobody else. We're going to stop people. We're going to turn our country around. We're going to make our country so powerful, so great. That's why they're weaponizing law enforcement for high-level election interference against Joe Biden's top and only political appointment, a guy named me. It's a guy named me. Joe Biden and the fascists that control him are the real threat to democracy. Remember that. I'm not the threat to democracy. I'm stopping the threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. As an example, you read about this. Can you believe this? Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond, $91 million, on a fake story, totally made-up story. Think of it, $91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. $91 million. Based on false accusations made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about, didn't know, never heard of. I know nothing about her. She wrote a book. She said things. And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation. That's where it starts. And this is Democrat operatives. These are all her lawyers, a big Democrat operative. The judge was a disaster. But Democrat operatives funding and directing her, they gave her the money to pursue the case. They changed the law. New York is a very corrupt place. And this is killing New York because companies are leaving because they don't want to get caught in this bind. They changed the law that allowed women to go back like unlimited. And she went back and she said, yeah, the mid-90s maybe? I don't know. I had no idea when. Nothing. She knew nothing. She went on Anderson Cooper. And she was saying all these wonderful things. And then there was a commercial break, and then she said horrible things after the career. I wonder what happened there. But it was before a federal Democrat, Trump-deranged judge. His name is Lewis Kaplan, an angry man. He screamed at my lawyer, screamed at her saying, we're going to essentially put you in jail, because she was incensed that this could be happening. He treated me like a common criminal. He's a terrible person, a terrible judge, and he's a disgrace to what's happening in New York. Think of it. I just posted because we're appealing. And in order to appeal, I had to post a $91 million bond. Normally, it would be you could do that, and then later on, if you go through an appeal process, which could take a long time, this woman is not a believable person. The judge knows this, but the judge is, in my opinion, he's a highly corrupt judge. You had to see the way he treated us in court. So I posted a $91 million bond, and the woman didn't even know when it happened. And she admitted on Anderson Cooper, oh, she said, I think it was sexy. It was this, can you believe this? $91 million. And then additionally, before another whacked out judge, this guy, you've been reading about it in New York. Companies don't want to go to New York anymore. You watch the impact this has. Arthur and Gorin, I got fined, listen to this one, $355 million for having done absolutely nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And it was proven. He even claimed that magnificent Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach is at a different stratosphere from every other place in terms of houses and values. And Mar-a-Lago is the biggest, the best in the country, maybe in the world. Magnificent Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million when he knows it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. But this was good for his false and fake decision. He said I was guilty before the trial started, before he knew anything about it. He says he's guilty. We're only going to have a trial on how much. And this guy, Gorin, did exactly what the fascist and racist Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, I call her Peekaboo James, who, by the way, is now being booed and heckled all over New York because they know it's a scam. But he did exactly what this racist, horrible human being told him to do. You know, she sued for $250 million, even though nobody. Then she went in later on after losing every point. She said, we want 350. He said, oh, we'll give it to you. This is unbelievable. Over nothing. Over nothing. And the business community is up in arms. And they're going to leave New York over it. Over that and crime and everything else. They're not looking at crime. They only look at Trump. And just as an example, I borrowed money from a bank. I paid the bank back. There was never a default, never a problem. Never a problem. I didn't even want the money. The bank wanted me to have money because that's what they do. They loan money. A small amount, much smaller than the amount you're talking about, the fine. I borrowed it. I paid it back. I paid it back early, actually, because I didn't want it. I paid it back early. I had to pay a penalty for paying back early. How about that? Okay. I paid a penalty because I paid it back early. They didn't want the money. I said, anyway, the banker testified. The bankers. But the banker testified. No, the loan was perfect. Well, we don't understand. He didn't even know what he was doing there. And this judge, he levels a fine for $350 million, $55 million, $355 million on a loan that's a fraction of that size because he's a corrupt Democrat clubhouse judge. He wouldn't allow a jury. There was no jury. It was a statute that I was sued under that was never used before. It was a consumer fraud statute. Never, ever used before. Did you know that? Never used. Only first time. Where you're not allowed juries, you're not allowed anything. It was in the sole discretion of the judge, and this corrupt judge ruled that I have to pay $355 because you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take us out, and it's not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. It's not going to work. But this is all crooked Joe Biden. It's directed lawfare and weaponization against his political opponents. And that includes really all of us. It's, what's happening is just an incredible thing. Now, take a look at your own neighborhood. You have a woman named corrupt Fani Willis. Fani. You have a woman named Fani Willis. Now, even though I believe it's spelled F-A-N-I, to my way of thinking, that's Fanny. But once she became the district attorney, I think she put a little emphasis on the U. Fani. So corrupt Fani Willis hired her lover, Nathan Wade, so they could fraudulently make money together. Let's make money, darling. Let's see, who can we go after? Well, if we go after somebody that nobody ever heard of, we can't make much. I got an idea. Let's do what Joe Biden and everybody else want. Let's go after Trump. And we did nothing wrong. Perfect phone call, other than we challenged the honesty of this election. This election was rigged. Rigged. Let's go after, darling. I love you very much. I love you very much, darling, he said, even though he never did a case like this before. He got almost $1 million. They targeted me to get the most dollars, and this guy with no experience at all. Think of it, he's been paid almost $1 million, and they traveled all over the world together. Isn't that romantic? Is anybody, I mean, it's sort of a beautiful love story. These are beautiful people. To me, it's a magnificent love story. Nothing like Gone with the Wind. You know, Gone with the Wind, you're not allowed to watch it anymore, right? You know that, right? It's politically incorrect to watch Gone with the Wind. They have a list. What were the greatest movies ever made? Well, Gone with the Wind is usually number 1 or 2 or 3. And then they have another list you're not allowed to watch anymore, Gone with the Wind. You tell me, is our country screwed up? But think of it. They went on these magnificent cruises, beautiful cruise lines, beautiful, beautiful cruise lines. And they got him because he was paying a fortune for taking more vacations than I've ever seen anybody in history take. Has anybody ever? She may set a record for the most vacations taken in the history of a job. But with money made wrongfully, prosecuting me and other innocent American patriots. We have a couple of them here right now, head of the Republican Party, an incredible guy. I mean, they went after him. He's a very good person. We have a certain gentleman in very high office who they went after too, but he beat them because everybody should beat them. And it's too bad a couple of people took a plea deal because they got off for nothing. But, you know, now they want to renegotiate their plea deal. They said this whole thing was a scam. But think of it. So we have Fani and her lover. But then they got caught because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what did they do? They paid it back. She said, oh, man, I'm screwed. Think of this. Man, they got me. They got me. I got it. I paid my lover back in cash. I gave it. And now I, being a very good businessman, I said, now she's really in trouble because now somebody's going to say, where did you get the cash? But they don't ask those questions, do they? But I think the judge is going to ask those questions. I think the judge is an honorable guy. And this whole thing should be dropped because many, many innocent people, their lives have been hurt. I've sort of gotten used to it, to be honest with you. It's like, but these people, they got indicted. Some of them were in their 70s and 80s. They got indicted, and they're great patriots. And they were protesting a corrupt election. They were protesting a corrupt election, or at least in their opinion, it was a corrupt election. I have no doubt about it, personally. But think of that. So now they have her, because now she's taken money because she was a part of the trip, and the trips cost a lot of money, and they went on so many of them. It was so romantic, a beautiful thing to watch, right? Nobody knew she was away for most of the time. And they went after me, but just think of it. So now she's in trouble because she's taken money that she just gave him. So she said she gave it back in cash, okay? That's a lie. That's a total lie. And if it isn't a lie, then she's got a much bigger problem, okay? Where'd she get the cash? So this whole witch hunt should be put out of its misery and dismissed immediately. This is a horrible thing that they've done. They wanted to go after a very highly respected United States senator. And somebody used some common sense. I think somebody probably higher up said, no, you can't do that. A senator that said, is everything being honest in Georgia? Are they having honest elections? Let's indict him for asking that question. No, they tried to go after a couple of people that you wouldn't even believe if you heard their name. Their whole campaign plan is to attack me because they've done nothing else. That's all they have. And this is all coming out of Washington. I don't know if you know. I call him Lover Wade. Lover Wade. Lover Wade spent days in the White House counsel's office. Do you know that, right? Did you know that? North Carolina. Spent days in the White House and days in the DOJ. This is all a Biden thing. This is the Fani is not a local state story. This is done in coordination with the White House. The DA in New York is done in coordination. They took their top person in the DOJ and put him in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to prosecute a gentleman named Donald Trump. Isn't that nice? They had a man, Pomerantz, who was Hillary Clinton's lawyer, represented the Democrat Party. He left the law firm, big law firm, smart law firm, very Democrat. It's okay. He left the law firm to serve free of charge in the DA's office in Manhattan to prosecute Donald Trump. So he's a big-name lawyer, Pomerantz. And he left. Think of this. Think of this. He left the law firm, represented Hillary Clinton and the DNC and Democrats. And he left the law firm to go in and prosecute, I want no salary, free of charge Donald Trump. And then they came in and they said, these charges are bullshit. You can't do that. And he quit in a huff. And he wrote a book about it before the case was even determined. He wrote a book, a totally dishonest thing. Nobody's ever seen. And even Alvin Bragg, the DA, said, this is the worst thing. This is terrible. You got to see the statements he made. They want to prosecute Pomerantz now. But this is all coming from the White House. Colangelo is the lawyer's name. And he comes from the White House. He was one of the top people in the White House. And they put him into the local Manhattan DA's office in order to prosecute Donald Trump. This is crooked Joe Biden. And Letitia James is totally controlled by Washington. Letitia Peekaboo James. Did anybody ever hear of her? She's controlled, Peekaboo. She's controlled. Did you ever see the pictures of her campaigning? I will get Donald Trump. This is before she knows anything about me. She's applying to She is working to become the Attorney General of New York. I will get Donald Trump. I will get him. I will get this son of a bitch. I will get him. I'm going to get him. I think that's a fair prosecutor. New York State has got to clean up its act. And by the way, Fulton County has to clean up its act. They have to clean up their act. Pundits and inside sources say that the attacks on me will be violent. They say that it's violent. The attacks, Biden said it. He said, you know what their whole plan is? It was just released the other day. It was leaked by one of the many people that probably thought it was wrong. Their whole plan is to go after Trump in every way possible, especially criminally and legally. How would you like to have my life? You like that life? Darling, I go home to our wonderful First Lady. She never heard the word indictment. Neither did I until I got indicted so many times in the last few months. I got indicted more than the late, great Al Capone. Did anyone ever hear of him? Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He was a gangster. If he had dinner with you and he didn't like you, you would be found dead the next morning. Your wife would not talk either because she was petrified. No, this was Al Capone. I got indicted more. My parents are looking down on me right now. They're saying, oh, my son, he's such a good boy. He didn't do this shit. Man, my father would say, he doesn't do this. Think of it. I got indicted more than Alphonse Capone, the meanest Scarface. Did anybody see the movie Scarface? He was not a nice man. Even Jim Jordan would be afraid of Scarface. Everybody was afraid of Scarface, but Scarface had a different kind of a thing. They didn't go after him like they go after me, I can tell you that. We can't let this happen. This has never happened in our country before. This happens in third world countries. This happens in banana republics. We can't let it happen here. And it's going to start with Fani, and hopefully they're going to end the case. They're going to end the case, not get rid of her, because this thing, and this affair was going on long before the case started, so the case is totally compromised. But we don't need to get rid of her and then put somebody else in there. It's unfair to all those people that got indicted. The list goes on, and they're good people, too. They're American patriots. They were protesting a rigged election, and it should start right here. They should throw out that fake deal from Fulton County. What they should do, they should spend their time going over the votes in Fulton County. That's what they should do. But the attacks will come through various places and through the Justice Department, FBI, even if they have no evidence whatsoever, because they don't care what happens after the election. They only care what happens before, because they want to try and damage me. But here's what's happened. I'm able to explain the situation. And if I was guilty of something, you'd know it. And the polls are all saying he's not guilty, it's a witch hunt. And it is. I've gone through this witch hunt with Russia, Ukraine. I've gone through this witch hunt for so long. 51 intelligence agents talking about the laptop from hell. They said it was from Russia, but they knew it wasn't from Russia. You know that. And many other things, the Pfizer fake signatures. This is what we're dealing. We have a very corrupt country. I fired Comey. I fired a lot of bad people, but I didn't know it ran so deep. It runs deep. We're going to get rid of the rest of them. I know who most of them are, too. They raided my house in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. They raided with they had no reason to do so. They violated my Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. They can't raid your house. They're not allowed to do it. They raided it. But a thing like this has never, ever happened before. Joe Biden is out of control, but really the people out of control are the people that surround him.